Welcome to Vegan Business Talk with Katrina Fox, author of Vegan Ventures, Start and Grow an Ethical Business. Hello and welcome to episode 40 of Vegan Business Talk. I'm Katrina Fox, journalist, media trainer and editor of veganbusinessmedia.com, the multimedia blog providing success tips for vegan business owners and entrepreneurs. In this episode, I interview Liza Braude-Glidden, co-founder and executive vice president of culture and sustainability at Beanfields Snacks in Los Angeles, which produces bean and rice chips. Beanfields is a family-owned business that was founded in 2011 by Reed Glidden, along with Liza, his wife, and Reed's brother Roy Glidden, with the aim of creating delicious plant-based non-GMO snacks with beans as the primary ingredient. The company's products are sold across the US, Canada, Australia and other countries, and in 2013 it became certified as a B Corp, cementing its commitment to business for good. While Reed and Roy Glidden brought more than 20 years' experience in the natural food sector to the table, Liza was new to the business, although she's a natural entrepreneur with previous experience as part owner of a construction firm, as well as having been active in a number of non-profits, including the Social Venture Network and the American Sustainable Business Association. Liza rolled out the very first batch of bean and rice chips in the family kitchen before putting her background in arts, education and writing to good use in Beanfields marketing campaigns. In this interview, Liza discusses the benefits of B Corp certification, why the business chose to be a for-profit public benefit corporation, contests as a way to raise your brand profile, how the company got featured on the Today Show, the one thing anyone contemplating leaving a salaried job to start a business should do, the importance of communities to grow your business, and much more. Here's the interview with Liza Braude-Glidden from Beanfields Snacks. Hello, Liza. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Hi, Katrina. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you. So I'm very excited to interview you today. As we were just chatting before, I really love your products, and I'm very glad that they're over in my side of the world in Australia as well, which is great. So tell us a little bit. I believe the company's been going since around 2011. So tell us, what are your drivers or the reasons for running the business? What's your why?
Well, my husband, Reed Glidden, and I founded Beanfields Snacks with Reed's brother, Roy Glidden, over 5 years ago. Reed and I are passionate vegans, and we are all particularly passionate about beans. Beans are one of the most sustainable and nutritious protein sources on Earth. Beanfield Snacks are all about beans. We love to grow them, we love to eat them, we love to make them into the most tempting snacks possible. And a lot of our fans say that our chips are the best tasting chip around, bar none.
For sure. So that's wonderful. I love your passion. I can hear that in your voice. And I believe you're passionate about natural foods in general. And so is your why sort of around animal, raising issues, animal welfare issues, environment?
Really, all of the reasons that people become vegan are very important to us, including concern for animals, concern for peace in the world and human consciousness. I don't see how we can be the conscious people we need to be to wield the kind of power we have as technologically empowered beings if we are still killing animals. It just doesn't make sense. One doesn't go with the other. Respect for life is primary, and we need to teach that to every child. And how
I
are we going
agree.
to teach it to them through feeding them burgers? That just doesn't make sense. Except we can make really great vegan burgers now. I eat them all the time. So, no insult to burgers that are made the right way.
Absolutely. I love that you've tied that into, because what I always think of is, running an ethical vegan business, running a business on ethical vegan principles. It's very much a form of advocacy or activism even to make a difference in the world. So why did you choose to run a business? It's kind of curious because there's lots of different ways people can do it. I believe that you're a bit of an entrepreneur anyway. Like before, you guys started Beanfields, you were already really quite entrepreneurial. So tell us a little bit about that.
That's correct. I was always involved in business, but on a much smaller scale. When I met my husband, he broadened my horizons, and we began, doing business on a much bigger scale. But I was involved in other companies that made, that were much more community based. Construction,
what do you like about
for example.
Oh, okay. What do you like about being an entrepreneur?
Well, it's a really spicy combination of freedom and responsibility.
And that's challenge. A really lovely definition. I love that. That's a really great soundbite, and I haven't heard that before. That's really cool.
Thank you, Katrina.
Oh, that's great.
Well, and I guess I'll say, on a more humble level, what most entrepreneurs say, which is, I'm not really suited to work for somebody else. I don't have the temperamental qualities, and I think I can say that for my husband too.
Fine, for sure. Now, just talking about kind of keeping on that theme of business for good or business for activism, you've become certified as a B Corp in 2013. For our international listeners, can you just explain very briefly what a B Corp is and why did you decide to go down this route?
Well, B Corps are businesses who gather together to use business as a force for good. I believe at this time there are just under 2,000 B Corps in the world. I haven't looked at the number lately, but they're all over the world. My three favorite examples are Ben & Jerry's, Patagonia, and Etsy. They're all B Corps. Our bank is a B Corp. Our accountant is a B Corp. Our team of corporate lawyers are B Corps, and our insurance agents are B Corps. So our whole financial team that supports our company, they're all B Corps, all committed to doing business as a force for good. And that makes a huge difference. We know where our money sleeps at night. But that's just one aspect. Really, being a B Corp, if you're a vegan company and you're making claims that your company is a good company doing business in a way that makes the world better, then B Corp gives you a vigorous third-party standard. That means it's not just your opinion anymore. It also means that you're standing with other companies all over the world who want to meet these flexible and meaningful standards for sustainability and social justice.
Got it, right. So you have to follow certain or come up to certain requirements in order to get that certification.
Well, it's actually a very complex algorithm. It's not like you have to meet one particular standard. You have to come up to a score of 80 or more on a large and complex array. So some companies are better, for instance, in their community relations. Others are better in their labor relations. Others may be better in their sustainability. So the B Corp certification, which you have to renew every 2 years, we renew it every year because we are also what's called in the U.S. a PBC, a public benefit corporation. That
Oh,
means
yes.
that our corporate structure legally is actually that we have a social benefit. So every year we need to provide a report on what our social benefit is and how we've done on our social benefit that year. And I think that's a really exciting new category of business, a category of business that's about making a profit, but not only making a profit. So we're definitely not a nonprofit. No way. We're in it, we're making money, but that's not all we're doing. We're also a force for good. And that's the point.
I love that. That's so cool. And I love that you've done that. And obviously, like you say, as you're renewing every year, so you're putting a lot of work, a lot of effort into this, and which is wonderful. So I imagine, what kind of challenges does that bring, and what benefits does it lend to you as an organization?
Well, there are always, it's always a leap to go to the next level of the standard. One leap was becoming a public benefit corporation. Another leap was getting all our financial services to be B Corps. And there are many leaps to come. For example, we're a fairly informally organized company at this point, but we need to have more formal procedures and standards for things. And that meet these ethical standards for, let me see if I can think of an example. Well, one that I think we've done is we've met a standard for maternal and paternal leave for employees. Now, we've never actually had to exercise that. None of our employees have chosen that route so far in our 5-year history, but you never know. Some definitely there are ones who could if they chose. So, but that's just an example of the type of thing that the B Corp challenges you to address. It challenges you to think about it ahead of time before the situation comes up. It challenges you to look at, who are your employees? Are you reaching out to new groups of people? Are you diverse? How much of your ownership and leadership is women, for example? I'm not the only woman investor in our company, but I'm the only principal who's a woman, and it's important to have that representation of women in every aspect of the company.
Got it. Fantastic. Thank you for explaining that. So what kind of benefits does it bring you? Because you're going to a lot of work to, a lot of effort to, to get these standards in place, which is wonderful and very, very inspiring. I'm really loving hearing about this. What benefits does it bring you as a company?
The difference between, how can I say this? We need to demonstrate on a daily basis that we are a company that cares. We care what we put in our products. We care how we treat our employees. We care about every aspect of our business. We're not perfect. We don't try to be, but as my husband likes to say, we're pretty darn good. So, we're just leaping along, trying to do a little bit better every year.
For sure. I'm talking about, I guess, from a public perception. So if people see that you're a B Corp, does that mean that they're more likely to be, or certain consumers will more likely be attracted to your company because they know that, you really are going to all this extra trouble, so you're more attractive to buy from?
I think that, yes. I think there is a segment of the population and more people who they understand what a B Corp is and what a public benefit corporation is, and they are attracted to doing business with companies that care. This is true for retailers too. a number of retailers, and I'm talking, large retailers, have commented on the fact that we're a B Corp, and they're attracted to that.
Oh, really? That's interesting to know. Is that just in the US or internationally?
Well, truthfully, I don't know about internationally. I don't know that much about what's attracting our international buyers to buy our chips. Our chips are available. They're very available in Canada and Australia, and they're available in a less concentrated way in about 15 other countries. So, people come to us and they want our chips. We'll sell them anywhere in the world where people want to buy them. So, but are those people attracted to B Corps? I know mainly in the U.S. I know that being a company that cares is important, and I think it's very important to the millennial generation, who will soon be the biggest buying block we have in consumer goods.
That's so true. Yeah, that's so true. That's really heartening, actually, to hear that the retailers as well as consumers are attracted to that. That's really good. So as we've gone on to the topic of distribution and getting your products out there, as you mentioned, your products are available in a number of retail outlets across the US, Canada, Australia, and these other countries that you mentioned. So can you give some idea about how do you make that happen? So, for other vegan businesses who are creating a brand of any kind and, they want to get it into these retailers, can you talk us through a little bit about how you go about making all that happen?
I think that when you're a new entrepreneur and you've got a product and you've tested it in your local market and it's got some traction and you've got a brand identity, you need to really take a hard look at what your skill set is and what your experience level and track record is. If you don't have experience and a track record in distribution, marketing, in all of that stuff, you better be prepared to ally yourself with an expert who is. It takes expertise and experience to deal with distribution networks and large retailers and all of that sort of thing. You cannot expect to be able to do that yourself.
Okay, right. So do you approach retailers directly, or do you go through a distributor or a broker? And what are some of the pros and cons of those approaches?
Well, on our level of business, distributors, we have many different distributors, and distributors and brokers are pretty essential. We have known companies that do without a broker network, but they are companies that are extremely sophisticated and cash rich. I don't. They can. They have ways of getting around. I don't think that a normal company is going to get around those distribution. The supply chain, the normal supply chain, for very long. I could be wrong. I would love to be proved wrong. I think it depends on your level of sophistication. Maybe somebody who's very, very tech savvy could figure out how to, do something in another way. For us, we work with distributors and we work with brokers.
Got it. So your products are available internationally as well. So can you talk about what are some of the challenges involved in national and international distribution?
Our country is very big and there's a lot of people in it. And so there are many regions. So just to, California is in itself, it's a large landmass, and it's the population of many countries. So just to roll out a product in California alone is a big deal. To do it all over the United States in every region, that's a bigger deal. It just is, and it takes a lot of people and relationships to make that happen.
I was going to just thinking about, as you were saying that, obviously to get to the kind of level that you've got to, and fast as well. As you say, your company's only been going for 5 years. So
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about staff. So approximately how many staff do you have, Liza?
Let's see. We have in our central office, we have 9 people. And we have 6 full-time employees who work remotely from different parts of the U.S.
Oh, okay. Excellent. That's a good mix. So how do you go about finding and keeping experienced and motivated staff?
Well, Reed and his brother Roy and our CFO, COO, Amrit Khalsa, have all been in the natural products industry for many years. We're tied into the grapevine, so we find good people. We just ask around. We've never used a headhunter. We just ask around. And we keep them because we have a homey, pleasant atmosphere. And we try to be homey, pleasant people, too. We run our business in our home. So
do you?
Yeah,
wow.
We do. Our employees come to work in our living room. Actually, if you go to our YouTube channel, you can see a little film about it. Yeah, we do. It's not something I would recommend for everybody, but for us, it's a very rich. It creates a very rich culture. We obviously really know the people that we're working with, even the people who work remotely. We work very closely together as a team.
I'm saying that really kind of ties in with the whole family business, that kind of extension of the family, which is amazing. So what about but you don't manufacture? Do you manufacture them in your home?
No, of course not.
No, that's what I was thinking. So no, I was thinking
that would be impossible.
Yeah.
The warehousing and of course the manufacturing is done in large plants. We have very intimate relationships with our manufacturer partners, and they're long-term relationships. We show up in the factory regularly. We do a lot of we just work very closely, and we do a lot of quality control and so forth.
Wonderful. Now, you talked about, the importance of hiring the right people, with the right expertise. So what, if any, expert help have you used over the years to grow your business? So I'm thinking in terms of, maybe business coaching, marketing experts, publicity, that kind of thing.
We don't generally hire those people. We do all that in-house. We study, we do research, but in terms of our brand message and how we get it out there, I think the one thing that we really, we have a partner that we work with on our packaging, that is a packaging expert, graphic design firm, and I wouldn't do without that because, packaging is everything. What can I say? And I'm very proud of ours. We redesigned it last year, and we redesigned our packaging because we wanted to go. We felt like for our core natural product consumer, we could have one kind of packaging, and we could just state our attributes. But for the mainstream, we felt like we had to communicate emotionally through beautiful imagery, and I think we've done that.
Yes.
So I'm very happy with our new packaging, and
Fantastic.
we couldn't do it without our graphic design partners.
And I can imagine as well, with all your experience, like your family expertise, you've got so much experience, I guess, from running other types of business and getting that out there for sure. Let's talk a little bit about competition then. So obviously nowadays there are a lot more options available for people to buy vegan products, and also, as you say, for mainstream, for people just wanting to buy, in your case, like chips or crisps, as we call them in the UK or Australia. Including. So how do you go about standing out? How does Beanfields go about standing out both within the vegan business arena and outside of it, and maintaining customers?
Well, we just make the best darn chips we can, that's the main reason, and we try to put them out there in a very attractive package, and we just keep making relationships and building our business. And we chose a growing market, and as the market grows, we grow with it. So we're very, I won't say we're lucky that way. We considered many other types of business to go into. It was a very conscious choice. So that's, I guess, what I would say.
For sure. What's particularly unique about Beanfields chips as opposed to others? Apart from the fact that they taste amazing and they're in great packaging, is there anything particularly unique that you think would make them stand apart from other types of chips?
Well, they have more nutrition than many other chips. Almost, they're toward the top of the chip category in terms of their nutrition. I think the fact, when people snack, they want to have, increasingly, consumers want to have a meal when they snack, because snacking is how they're getting most of their nutrition. So they need some actual protein and fiber and energy from that snack. And I think we offer that in a very attractive form. And by attractive, I mean yummy. And, I think people want to eat the yummiest snack they can. That's better for them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nobody's under the illusion that a chip is a health food. That's just not true. But they can be much better for you than most of the chips out there, and ours are.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. And plus you've got your B Corp certification, which I guess is another real attractive selling point. Now, I've heard a lot about, as we've been talking, I've heard you say quite a bit about partnering and relationships. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, because in some circles now, it's kind of, let's not even think about competition per se. Instead, embrace your so-called competitors as collaborators, and think about them to do joint ventures. What are your thoughts on that? And curious about, I know you've touched a little bit about on some of the partnerships, but talking about perhaps, have you done anything at all with kind of people who are doing similar things to you in your industry? Or just what are your general thoughts on collaboration versus competition?
Snacks is a very competitive industry, and better for you snacks are no different. Very competitive. That being said, collaboration is also important. I think in some industries, maybe that works, to be collaborative with your competitors. In our industry, yes, we are collaborative with our competitors in some ways. For instance, we promote beans. We don't just promote them, like we're the only bean chip that exists. There are a few others. Not many, though. There are many chips that say bean on the front of them. Very few of those are actually bean chips.
Oh, right.
They're corn chips with a few beans in them. Ours, of course, are made of beans and brown rice. And, so, and we are, to my knowledge, the only better for you chip that's made of beans and 100% brown rice. We show that we care. But, we want beans to be an ingredient in food. And over the last 5 years, beans have really come a long way in people's understanding of how they can be an important and really vital ingredient in food that's really tasty and can be in almost anything, like, bread or cookies or, anything you could name. Beans can be a part of that. And now people are starting to understand that. We've been a part of making that happen for our whole industry, not just for our company. So I do think that our company benefits every other company that uses beans, particularly as a main ingredient, but as any kind of ingredient. Beans are becoming sexier and sexier.
Yeah.
And people like them more and more. This year is 2016 is the United Nations Year of the Pulse, and pulse means beans, lentils, and peas.
Ah.
So the United Nations has formally acknowledged the importance of beans in the health and sustainability of the world and its food supply. So, we're all, I think, all vegan foods and all bean-based foods are pulling for the bean. Beans are biodiverse. They're non-GMO. There are all sorts of really great things about beans.
Sure. So tell me, who's your main demographic, Liza, in terms of your customers and consumers? I know you touched on millennials earlier. Do you have an idea of who your main kind of customers are, and also approximately what percentage of them are vegan?
Our customers are across the board. We see at least our potential customers as anybody who picks up a bag of chips. So that would mean 5 to 7% of those people are vegan, at least in the U.S. I think that's about what it is. However, 78% of people in the U.S. are interested in reducing the animal products in their diet for environmental, ethical, and spiritual reasons. So even if you're a die-hard animal products person, you just have to have animal products at every meal, you're probably going to be entertaining some vegans, and you're going to want to provide some vegan alternatives. And our chips please everybody. Even many people with food allergies can eat our chips.
I was just curious because, in marketing terms, the whole idea is, you do these marketing exercises to find out who your ideal client is, and then you market specifically to them using language that they understand and that appeals to them. So I'm just curious, how does that work when your customers are so broad? There's the whole kind of adage of when you market to everyone, you market to no one kind of thing. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you get around that?
Well, let me put it to you this way. Everybody has a 5-year-old kid inside of them that wants a yummy snack. Everybody. I mean, just everybody. So, and everybody's 5-year-old kid has a, a 30-something mom who's concerned that 5-year-old kid gets decent nutrition. So if you put those two parts of every person together, you get our customer. Our customer is the kid in every person combined with the person who really cares about the long-term welfare of that person.
Cool.
And so we try to show our consumers that at least to a little degree they can have their cake and eat it too, because we really do think a lot of our fans feel that our chips are just as yummy as any mainstream chip.
For sure. Now let's talk about the use of the word vegan in your marketing materials, on your website, etc., and the prominence of the word. There's two schools of thought. One, it's limiting, it scares people away, or two, it's clever niche marketing. What are your thoughts on this? And just to tell us a little bit about your choice of how you use the word in your marketing and why.
We shout the word vegan loud and proud. On the very top of our package, it says always vegan and gluten-free. So we are not shy about saying vegan. We do not think it's a niche market. We think that people are interested in vegan food, whether they're vegan or not. And we just think being vegan is a terrific thing that more and more people are going to want to be. So we don't feel shy about it at all. Sometimes we use the term plant-based, which is a little bit more dignified, and some people still get the impression that, there are still some vegans out there who can be grumpy about their veganism, and they're entitled. I'm all for it. We can have grumpy vegans. We can have all sorts of vegans. We can have Ellen DeGeneres. She's not a grumpy vegan. We can have all sorts of wonderful Leonardo DiCaprio, not a grumpy vegan. There are lots of wonderful vegans out there who are doing great things.
For sure. So in terms of marketing and PR, what marketing strategies do you use and that you find most effective?
Early on, our philosophy was if we could get our chips into people's mouths, if we could get them to taste our chips, they would be enamored and they would buy them. And that worked pretty well. But now we're a little big for that strategy, and we can't send our faithful brand representative into every market, and we don't have too many of those in Australia, so we have to have other means. And, we use social media. We're on YouTube and Facebook. We do lots of contests. We're on Instagram and Twitter. We do lots of contests. So if you want to, in the United States, if you want to win a free box of our chips, you can enter our contests. We have many, many of them. So your chances of winning eventually are pretty good.
No, that's great. That's useful to hear, actually. I like the fact that you say, particularly when you're starting out, like you say, you kind of need to get into the field, tabling or having a stall or a booth at events to actually get people to consume them. Then as you grow, you have these different ways of reaching people, and competitions, contests are a great idea. So that's great. Thank you for for sharing that. What about media, Liza? Has Beanfields been featured in any media of any kind?
Yes, we certainly have. We were recently there was a lovely article on our brand in the Huffington Post. We were recently featured in Good Housekeeping and on the Today Show. So it's
wonderful.
not like we're not in the mainstream media, we certainly are. And this is earned media. We certainly don't go out and pay for that kind of stuff. We've won many awards. We recently won an award at an innovation award at the Salty Snacks Expo in Chicago.
Fantastic.
So, we get ourselves out there.
So how do you get yourselves out there? You mentioned you don't really work with like PR experts. So I'm fascinated the fact that you particularly got on something like the Today Show. How did you go about doing that? Did you pitch them? Did they contact you?
They contacted us.
Wonderful.
And they it's through the network of nutritionists. Nutritionists are out there trying to find good things that people will actually eat. And so the nutritionist said she's looking for snacks that have a vegetable or some other nutritious ingredient as the first ingredient on their list. So she's asking consumers to look and see if the first ingredient there is something that's not empty calories.
Oh.
And so our first ingredient is always beans.
Fantastic. That's so cool. I love that you managed to get, a really great piece of, major mainstream media, mainstream TV show by, doing what's right, obviously the business for good, and obviously being out there enough in your other ways of marketing that consumers were able to go, okay, yeah, you should get these guys on the show. So I think that's very inspiring. I like that.
So the thought really behind that is that we designed the product from day one to be a particular way and send a particular message. So we didn't have to add that on. It was inherent to what we were doing from day one.
Brilliant. No, I love that. And that's great that that's been recognized. So let's talk a little bit about people who are wanting to start their own business and run it on ethical vegan principles, regardless of the type of business it might be. Tell us, what in your opinion, because you're very entrepreneurial, like you say, you're not really cut out to work for other people. What are the key things that people need to take into account before making that leap from employment to self-employed or entrepreneur?
Well, I don't really endorse that people make that leap. In other words, keep your day job, I mean, don't take unnecessary risks. I think that would be my message. In our case, we were already in the natural food industry, just not in the manufacturing part of it, because Reed and Roy had been marketing, they had been brokering natural foods for decades. So they were already in the industry. Their day job was already the industry. So it was something they had always dreamed of, to have their own company. But if you're really like I think the thing I would say is real innovators manage their risks. They are very, very conservative in most ways because they know they're going to have to take a huge leap of faith and take an enormous risk. So they make everything else very conservative. For example, we did not mortgage our house when we started our business. We were fortunate to be able to do it that way. So that would be my message, manage your risk.
I think it's really important. Yeah, I really like that. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's important for people to hear, because sometimes they can get a bit excited and go, this is what I'm going to do. It's my passion and my purpose. And they maybe get a little bit carried. And you don't want to, discourage them. But at the same time, like you're saying, I think it's really important for them to have that good balance of passion and being inspired by also, like you say, managing the risk and reality. So thank you for sharing that. So now, obviously, there are, starting any business, it has its challenges. What were some of the challenges in the beginning that you could feel comfortable sharing with starting up Beanfields, with making that transition, as you say, into manufacturing?
Well, I would say, in the beginning of a company, you have to do everything. And so you're doing a lot of things you're not good at and you don't even like. That's just the reality of how it happens. In my case, I was particularly involved in the certification and verification process. So the non-GMO certification that every Beanfields product has. I was the person managing that and managing the gluten-free certification that we also have on every product. That was my job. I'm not suited for that job. I'm not a detail person. I'm a decent communicator. I'm decent at writing copy. I have a lot of more artistic skills and some people skills, but not. Now we have someone with an engineering background doing that job, much more suited to the job than me. So, you have to be prepared to do a lot of things you don't like, because you're not going to be able to do only the things you like, because everything has to be done, and it has to be done right then by whoever's available to do it, whether it's sweeping the floor or, I'm not a salesperson, but I made some sales calls because it needed to be done, and so I scrubbed myself up and I made sales calls.
I love that you shared that, because I think, again, a lot of people starting out in business kind of think they want to do the thing that they love. So, they maybe want to bake the cookies, or they want to, if they're a designer, they want to do the design stuff. And then they get quite disillusioned when they find, I've actually got to do all this business kind of stuff as well, particularly as they're starting out. So I love that you've shared that. I guess when I was listening to you saying that, what I did feel like, though, it gives you an appreciation of the different types of jobs that you then can hire people to do. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, you got someone in with an engineering background, and
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You really appreciate the people who come in and do those jobs, and you're able to communicate with them because you've been a few blocks in their moccasins.
They're vegan moccasins.
Right, vegan. Yeah, I wear vegan shoes. Believe me.
Now you touched on a little bit about funding the business, and you mentioned about being risk averse. So obviously every business, even online ones only, they're going to have some startup costs. So what are some of the methods you've used or that you can comment on? I think you mentioned investors. So what are some of the pros and cons of the various methods, like investors, loans, grants, all these kinds of things?
Our method of fundraising is relationships that are deep and long. And we established those by being long-term members of groups that are concerned with ethical investing, like Social Venture Network. Social Venture Network is a network that's been supportive of our company, not the whole network, but individuals in it. So we never did any of the crowdsourcing stuff. Maybe we will someday. We did one crowdsourcing campaign, but that was for bean research. It wasn't to benefit our company or raise funds for our operations.
Right.
So I'm not sure our method would work for any other company, but I would say that for instance, the Hub Network, which is international, there are many networks of ethically oriented businesses, and they some of them are for companies with 5 million plus in revenues. Some are for smaller companies. Some, like Social Venture Network, have programs that are outreach programs for entrepreneurs, particularly minority entrepreneurs.
Oh, cool.
So, I think being in a a community of like-minded people, whether you do that through a co-working space or whether you do that through a network of people who are doing crowdsourcing, whatever your method is of getting that community of people who know you and know where you stand and what you stand for, that's what gives you access to people who will support you in various ways.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing those. Those sound like excellent resources, and I'll put links to those in the on the show notes page. That's fantastic. So the final couple of questions are around mindset. So many and personal development, because a lot of business owners say running and owning their business, it's the fastest and most effective form of personal development because it forces you out of your comfort zone. And like you mentioned, you had to do things that you weren't necessarily comfortable with. What qualities do you believe are essential to staying the course and running a successful ethical business?
Well, I really think there's no one set of qualities. I think each entrepreneur has a unique approach. And the important thing is to find out what your strengths and weaknesses are and go for your strengths and then find partners who can compensate for your weaknesses. Everybody's got both, and you know each entrepreneur has their own unique cocktail. But it's very important not to think, oh gosh, I can't read a balance sheet, so I can't be an entrepreneur. Well, you probably can if you find somebody who's really reliable who reads your balance sheet. I mean, every entrepreneur should be able to read a balance sheet. I don't mean to say you can't really farm that one out. But what I mean is, you don't need to be an accountant. You don't need to wear every hat. But you need to be really realistic about what hats you can wear, and you need to really value the people who can do the things you can't.
Wonderful. I love that. That's a great answer. Now, are there any specific steps or strategies or techniques or things that you do or you've used to ensure a strong mental and emotional well-being as a business owner? Because as we know, running a business of any kind, even if you've got a big team, there are, different challenges, different stresses that come up. Are there anything that you do to kind of, maintain that strong mental and emotional well-being as an entrepreneur?
I think in our particular company, my husband and I are former yoga teachers. Our CFO, COO is also a former yoga teacher. A couple of other people on our staff are former yoga teachers. So yoga is one of the glues. It's not like we're practicing asanas in the office, but we have an approach, that approach in a common language that we share. And I think that helps. A lot of us are vegans or vegetarians, and I think that helps. It helps that we have that common language. Now, some of us aren't. Some of us are out eating burgers every day. That's the minority. But we need all types. We need to respect our differences. But also there are some commonalities that really bind us. And then there's the family approach. We have a family approach to business. Not everyone should go into business with their family. We have, right now, we have 5 people in our company who are related, who play major roles. So, not everyone should do that. I don't necessarily recommend it, but but for some people, like in the U.S., I think it's 65% of companies are family owned.
Wow, really?
Family-owned business is a very powerful and ununderstood force. You look at people like corporate coaches, and a lot of them don't really orient themselves toward a family business. We have one partner who won't hire anyone who's a relative of anyone else, and that's not that uncommon. But we have the opposite approach. We have, and I was only counting people who are actually employees. We also have brand representatives who are relatives. We have all sorts of people out there, who identify with our brand and who support our brand in various ways, who are family members.
What are some tips you can advise then, now that you're talking about that? Because like you said, it doesn't work for everyone. What are some tips to be able to do that successfully? And particularly if you're, like you say, you and your husband are the co-founders. So what are some tips you can offer for people who maybe are considering going into business either with their partner, their spouse, or their family?
It's not for the faint of heart. I would say, especially with your spouse. I think it's a make or break proposition. Either you'll get much closer and fall more deeply in love, or you'll break up. And it's. I like to joke that my husband fired me. I started out as vice president. He demoted me to artistic director, and then he fired me altogether. But that didn't last more than a few weeks. And then I had to crawl back up to being a VP. But I earned my place in the company, and we made our way as a couple. And that's not for everybody. You just have to really look at what you want to do and how you want to do it. I have another friend who started a company, and she did it completely independently, and that at a certain point she invited her husband to join her in the company. It just, different companies work different ways, but I do want to emphasize that both Glidden brothers are my husband is the founder of the company, and his brother Roy and I are the co-founders. So,
right.
So we've all been important founding energies.
For sure. I can imagine you probably have to, with couples, like you mentioned, to have a good sense of self-awareness to be able to handle those trials and tribulations when they happen. So it sounds like you've obviously managed to do that, which is wonderful. So that's great. What have been the key?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that in addition to that, we've both lived in ashrams and lots of group living situations. So we're sort of community-oriented people. And I think that a lot of hard knocks in the community area really helps us.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that. So, final couple of questions. What have been the key lessons you've learned through running this business, or even you're just running businesses as a whole?
You can't control what happens. You can steer a bit, but the business and the marketplace have their own momentum, and you have to surf that.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'm getting comfortable with being able to not be a control freak, I guess. I know a lot of people I've interviewed say, a lot of the business owners I know say that, and they're kind of like, that's been one of the key things they've had to learn to do, is to surrender and not, try and control everything and get comfortable with not having that control.
Well, you have to try, even though you have to keep trying to control things, even though it's impossible, because that's what business is. I mean, you have to, sort of get your arms around it, around costs and, distribution and all these things. They're impossible to control, and yet you have to keep trying.
And then final question then, Liza, what's the long-term vision for Beanfields and for yourself?
Well, I would say for Beanfields, our vision is, if you're going into a store and there's a snack available, Beanfields should be available. We see our snack as just as yummy and just as desirable as anything out there. For Reed and I personally, most entrepreneurs are probably a little younger than we are. We're both 63. So, we maybe, sometime in the future we'd have a little more privacy than we have now. And we'd be taking things a little easier. But, for now, we're on an amazing adventure. And it's an amazing thing to share.
You are, and I'm sorry to interrupt. And I love that you shared your age. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's actually going to be really inspiring for people, who are maybe in their 50s or 60s, who kind of think, oh, yeah, all these entrepreneurs, they're all young. You have to be younger to, start a new business. And I love that you've demonstrated that you can start a business at any age and still love it and be successful. So I do appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. With the caveat, I think that the older you get, I think the more risk averse you become, and I think that's appropriate. You don't want to take the same level of risks in your 60s that you took in your 20s. That's just the fact.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's an excellent point. Liza, you've shared so many wonderful insights and experiences, and your expertise. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you, Katrina. It's been my pleasure.
So that was Liza Braude-Glidden from Beanfields Snacks. You can find out more at beanfieldsnacks.com. And that link is on the show notes page at veganbusinessmedia.com/podcasts, and then going to episode 40. Now for our vegan business news roundup. Soul Burger has opened a second outlet in the inner west suburb of Glebe in Sydney, Australia. The opening night was this week, and I went along. There were literally queues out of the door for at least 2 hours, and I'm pretty sure they continued even after I left. It was mostly a young crowd of millennials there, and the place was packed. So this is a great development, because Soul Burger, which has its original location in the eastern suburb of Randwick, switched to an all-vegan menu late last year after owner Amit Tiwari, a young medical doctor currently doing his residency, realised he needed to match his personal ethics to his business ones. So to see the eatery continue to thrive and open a second outlet and attract so many people keen to enjoy plant-based foods is wonderful. Soul Burger offers a range of burgers using products from Gardein and other companies, along with fries and delicious dairy-free milkshakes. I enjoyed a cheeseburger on opening night, and I'm looking forward to many more, because the Glebe location is just a few doors down from vegan supermarket The Cruelty Free Shop, so yet another reason to visit the area. Also in Australia, a vegan eatery has been voted best restaurant by readers of Time Out magazine in Melbourne. The People's Choice Award went to Smith & Daughters, located on the vegan-friendly Brunswick Street in Fitzroy. The restaurant is owned by Mo Wise and Shannon Martinez, who opened it 2 years ago, and they've since added a vegan deli nearby. Martinez is a meat eater and chef by trade who is determined to serve up tasty plant-based alternatives. According to Time Out Melbourne, the pair estimate only around 20% of their customers are committed vegans, with the rest just looking for good food. Now, I must admit, I haven't actually been to Smith & Daughters. Whenever I've gone to Melbourne, it's usually because I'm speaking at an event or a veg fest, and I'm not usually there for long, but I definitely plan on checking it out next month when I'm down there speaking at World Vegan Day. I love that a vegan restaurant won this award in such a broad category, and it just goes to show that we really don't need meat or animal secretions to create delicious food, and I really hope this message continues to get out there to the masses. Major UK supermarket chain Sainsbury's has launched its own range of vegan cheese, reports the Huffington Post. Made from coconut, the flavours include cheddar, Wensleydale with cranberries, a feta alternative and soft cheese. The Deliciously Free From range, which is created by Boot Islands Foods, was developed after recent research by the supermarket found that pizza, cheese boards, cheesecake and lasagna were the most sought after items by shoppers looking for allergen-free products. The range covers every type of cheese use, from melting on toast, sprinkling on pasta, or making a frosting for a cake. I'm really pleased to hear this, and I'm not surprised that Sainsbury's have done this, only that they took so long. When I went vegan 20 years ago in 1996, I used to shop at the large Sainsbury's in Camden because it had a decent range of vegan products. So it just goes to show that the more people demand certain types of products, the more that larger companies will supply them, which is why we have to continue to increase the demand for vegan goods. So well done, Sainsbury's. Vegan pubs are becoming all the rage. Recently, Sydney in Australia and Nottingham in the UK saw the opening of the first plant-based pubs in the areas. Now Austin, Texas is getting in on the act with the launch of the Beer Plant, which is described as a 100% plant-based bar and kitchen, reports Austin Eater. Owned by Ray and Sarah McCacken, with local vegan chef Laura Lou Mustachio at the helm in the kitchen, the menu features a hops and chips plate, including beer-battered hearts of palm, hand-cut chips and cabbage slaw with Cajun remoulade, crispy buffalo cauliflower with blue cheese dip, the ploughman's board with house-made sourdough bread, fermented nut cheeses, tomato chutney, cultured coconut butter with grapes, apple slices and walnuts. Oh my gosh, that sounds absolutely delicious. And as well as attracting vegans and vegetarians, the Beer Plant also aims to be a destination for craft beer aficionados. The bar will offer more than 30 beers on tap, including sour, farmhouse and session, and local seasonal offerings. Fantastic, and it's clever too. Getting people into a venue for decent beer is a great way to expose them to plant-based foods. The Plant Pure brand is continuing to expand its enterprise with the opening of a Plant Pure cafe in Philadelphia, reports Philly.com. Moving into the space previously occupied by vegan eatery Mayoz, the new cafe, which is set to open by the end of the year, is a partnership with VGE's Fernando Peralto. And if you're thinking Plant Pure sounds familiar, it's because it's headed up by Nelson Campbell, star of the popular documentary Plant Pure Nation, and featuring his father, the renowned T. Colin Campbell, author of the China Study. The menu will feature a salad bar and hot bowls, and its unique selling point is no oil. It's fascinating to see this brand grow. My friend Ron Gandisa works for Plant Pure, and they've done a wonderful job of spreading the word and creating large communities across the globe around the Plant Pure brand using a diverse range of elements, of which the National Cafe chain is the latest. Finally, a coalition of investors who manage $1.25 trillion worth of assets have called on 16 large food companies to focus on plant-based proteins, reports Global Meat News. Yeah, I didn't particularly like going to that website, as you can imagine, but it's good they're covering the story. The 40 investors were brought together by the Farm Animal Investment Risk and Return Initiative, known as FAIRR, F-A-I-R-R. They wrote to 16 companies, including General Mills, Tesco's and Kraft Heinz, calling for them to outline their strategy to profit from plant-based meat alternatives. Jeremy Collar, founder of the FAIR Initiative and chief investment officer at Collar Capital, said, "The world's over-reliance on factory-farmed livestock to feed the growing global demand for protein is a recipe for financial, social and environmental crisis. Investors want to know major food companies have a strategy to avoid this protein bubble and to profit from a plant-based protein market set to grow by 8.4% annually over the next 5 years. Well, let's hope that these companies take note of these investors so we start to see more of a shift away from meat. So that's it for this episode of Vegan Business Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please consider giving it a review and a rating on iTunes or any other platform you're listening on. I'm Katrina Fox from veganbusinessmedia.com, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next episode. Bye for now.